Oh, good morning. Here I am in my sunny parlor on my charming tree-lined Yonkers Street, and I still can't believe that I am this town's most influential and richest woman. I don't think this was easy to achieve, even in this enlightened modern day of 1879. Dolly Ghallagher Levi Vandergelder worked hard to arrange all this. I've always been a woman who likes to arrange things like flowers and furniture, and if need be, lives. Oh, don't get me wrong, I would never manipulate anyone if I didn't know it was good for them. My stirring the soup, when I managed to snare Horace Mary, was able to make everybody happy. By luring him away from Irene Malloy, I made it possible for her to become Mrs. Cornelius Hackle, and Ermengarde, Horace's niece, Mrs. Ambrose Kemper. Oh, this could not have happened if there wasn't genuine love in the air. But I needed to give Mother Nature a little push by doing a little gentle pointing and suggesting, and voila, everybody found their true love. Now, let me tell you how I became Mrs. Horace Vandergelder. Well, it all started when Horace was left a widower, when his dear wife, my beloved best friend, passed away. After a respectable period of mourning ended, and without a woman, Horace's house descended into chaos. Why, naturally, he needed a housekeeper, but being too stingy to hire one, he decided to get married to one.
This morning, I'm leading my lodge parade down to Spite and Dival, and this afternoon, I am going to New York. But before I go, I have something important to tell you. Good news. Fact is, I'm going to promote you. How old are you?
33.
What?
I'm 33.
That's all? That's a foolish age to be at. I thought you were 40.
No, I'm 33.
No, a man isn't worth a cent until he's 40. I was going to promote you to chief clerk.
What am I now, Mr. Vandergelder?
You're an impertinent fool is what you are. But if you behave yourself, I'll promote you from impertinent fool to chief clerk with a raise in your wages.
Thank you, Mr. Vandergelder.
I want to see you before I go. Now go in and get my trunk.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder.
99% of the world are fools, and the rest of us are in grave danger of contagion. Now, I wasn't always as free of foolishness as I am now. I was young once, which was foolish. I fell in love, which was foolish, and I got married, which was foolish. And for a time, I was poor, which was the most foolish thing of everything. Then my wife died, which was foolish of her. I grew older, which was sensible, and then I became a rich man, which is as sensible as it is rare. And so, as you can see, I'm a man of sense, and you're probably wondering why I would even think about getting married again, but that's exactly what I'm doing. You see, I have two reasons for it. First, I like my house run with order, economy. That's a woman's job. But a woman can't do it if she's merely being paid to do it. You see, marriage is a bribe to make a housekeeper feel like she's a householder. Have you ever seen an ant carry a burden twice its size? What excitement, what patience, what will. Well, that's what I see when I see a woman running a house. Oh, the giant passions in those little bodies. What arguments with the butcher for the best cut. What fury at seeing them off in a cupboard. Believe me, if women could harness their natures to more than a baby carriage and a house, they would change the world. And the second reason, ladies and gentlemen, I can see by your face that you've already figured it out. There is nothing like mixing with women to bring out all the foolishness in a man of sense, but that is a risk I am willing to take. I've just turned 60, and I've just laid side by side the last dollars of my first $500,000. And so, if I lose my head a little, I can afford to buy it back. And so, I am thinking about getting married again. After years of hard work and caution, I have a right to a little bit of fun and adventure. And so, like the rest of all you fools, I am going to risk a little bit of security for a certain amount of adventure. Think that over.
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, how handsome you look. Ah, you take my breath away. I wish Irene Malloy could see you now. But then I don't know what's come over you lately. You seem to be growing younger every day.
Allowing for exaggeration, Mrs. Levi. If a man eats careful, there's no reason he should look old.
You've never said a truer word. Oh, dear.
Mrs. Levi, I have news for you.
News?
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Levi, I think that your matchmaking has paid off. I've practically decided to ask Irene Malloy to be my wife.
You have?
I have.
Oh, you have. Well, I guess that's the best news I've ever heard. So there's nothing much more for me to do but to wish you all the happiness under the sun and say goodbye. I did have one other little suggestion to make, but I won't. You're going to marry Mrs. Malloy, and that settles the matter.
Oh? What suggestion was that, Mrs. Levi?
Well, I had another girl for you.
Another?
Yes, the most wonderful girl, the ideal wife.
Another, eh? What's her name?
Her name?
Yes.
Ernestina. Ernestina Simple. Miss Ernestina Simple. But of course now all of that is too late. After all, you're engaged. You're practically engaged to marry Irene Malloy.
Oh, I ain't engaged to Mrs. Malloy.
Nonsense. You can't break poor Irene's heart now and change to another girl. When a man at your time of life calls 4 times on an attractive widow like that and sends her a pot of geraniums, well, that's practically an engagement.
That ain't an engagement.
And yet, if only you were free. I found this treasure of a girl. Every moment I felt like a traitor to Irene Malloy, but I tell you, I couldn't help it. Oh, I told her all about you just as if you were a free man. Isn't that dreadful? The fact is, she's fallen in love with you already.
Ernestina?
Ernestina Simple.
Ernestina Simple.
Of course, she's a very different idea from Irene Malloy, Ernestina is. She's like her name, simple, domestic, practical.
Can she cook?
Cook! Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, I've had 2 meals from her hands, and as I live, I don't know what I've done that God should reward me with such meals. Her duck, mwah, her steak, oh.
Hey! Hey! In this house, Mrs. Levi, we don't eat duck and steak every day.
But didn't I tell you that's the most wonderful part of it all? Her duck, what was it? Pigeon. Oh, I'm alive to tell you, I don't know how she does it. It's a secret handed down in her family. Every good chef would give their right hand to know it. And her steak? Oh, shoulder of beef, 4 cents a pound, dogs wouldn't eat. But when Ernestina passes her hands over it...
Allowing for exaggeration, Mrs. Levi.
No exaggeration. I'm the best cook in the world myself, and I know what's good.
How old is she?
19? Say 20.
20, Mrs. Levi. Girls of 20 are apt to favor young fellas their own age.
But you don't listen to me, and you don't know the girl. She has a positive horror of flighty, brainless young men. A head of fine gray hair is 20 times better than those shined up with goose grease. No, sir. I like a man who's settled. In so many words, she said it.
That's not usual, Mrs. Levi.
Usual, Mr. Vandergelder. I'm not wearing myself to the bone hunting up usual girls to interest you, Mr. Vandergelder.
Well, I hope she has some means because I have a very large household to run.
Ernestina? She'll bring you $5,000 a year.
What's her family?
Her father, God be good to him. Oh, now, he was the best, what am I trying to say? He was the best undertaker in Brooklyn. Regarded, esteemed, knew all the best people, knew them well even before they died. So, that's the way it is. I'm not going to tell you any more about it. Couldn't you, come to New York today?
I was thinking about coming to New York this afternoon.
Oh, you were? Well, I wonder if something could be arranged. She's so eager to see you. Let me see.
Could I, Mrs. Levi, invite you for a little dinner, maybe?
Really? Oh, but come to think about it, I don't know where I'd get the time. I'm so busy with this wretched lawsuit of mine. Yes, if I win it, I don't mind telling you, I'd be what is called a very rich woman. I'd own half of Long Island, and that's a fact. But just now, I'm at my wit's end for a little help. Just enough to finish it off. Oh, just my wit's end. Well, perhaps I could arrange a little dinner. I'll see. Yes, for that lawsuit, all I would need is $50, and Staten Island is as good as mine. I've been trotting all over New York to find you a suitable wife, Mr. Vandergelder.
$50? $50, Mrs. Levi, is no joke. I don't know where the money's gone to these days. It's in hiding. There's 20. Right. 25, but I can't spare no more. Not now, I can't.
Well, this will help. This will help somewhat. Now, let me tell you what we'll do. I'll bring Ernestina down to that restaurant on the Battery. You know it. It's the Harmonia Gardens. It's good, not flashy. Now, I think it would be nice if just this once you ordered a real nice meal. I guess you can afford it.
Well, just this once.
A chicken wouldn't hurt.
Chicken? Well, just this once.
And a little wine?
Wine! Well, just this once.
Now, about Mrs. Malloy, what do you think? Shall we call the subject closed?
No, not at all. I still want to have dinner with
Simple.
With Miss Simple. But first, I want to pay another call on Mrs. Malloy.
Dear, dear, dear. And Miss Simple, what races you make me run. Very well. I'll meet you on one of those benches in front of Mrs. Malloy's hat store at 4:30 as usual.
The buggy's here, ready for the parade, Mr. Vandergelder.
1 minute, I want to talk with you.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder.
Now, Mr. Vandergelder, do put your thoughts in order. I can't keep disturbing and upsetting the finest women in Manhattan unless you mean business.
Oh, I mean business, all right.
I should hope so, because you're playing a dangerous game.
Dangerous? Dangerous, Mrs. Levi?
Of course it's dangerous, and there's a name for it. You're tampering with these women's affections. And if the only way you can save yourself is to get married to one of them before the end of next week. So, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
This morning I'm leading my parade, and this afternoon I'm going to New York. When I come back, there are going to be some changes in the house here. I'm going to tell you what the changes are, but I don't want you discussing it amongst yourselves. You're going to have a mistress.
I'm too young, Mr. Vandergelder.
Not yours! Death and damnation, not yours, idiot, mine! I'm thinking about getting married again.
Oh, well, many congratulations, Mr. Vandergelder, and my compliments to the lady.
That's none of your business. Now go back to the store. You have any questions you want to ask me before I go?
Mr. Vandergelder,
Hmm?
Mr. Vandergelder, does the chief clerk get one evening off a week?
So, that's how you start your time as chief clerk, is it? When I was your age, I was up at 5. I worked in the store every night until 10, and then I spent a good hour on the account books. No, sir, you will run the shop as usual, and on Friday and Saturday nights, you will remain open until 10 o'clock. Now, you hear this. This is the first time that I am away from the store overnight. And when I return, I want to hear that you ran this store perfectly in my absence. If I hear of any foolishness, I will discharge you. An evening free. Do you think that I had evenings free? If I had evenings free, I wouldn't be what I am now.
Chief clerk. Promoted from chief clerk to chief clerk. And if I'm good, in 10 years I'll be promoted to chief clerk again. When will I get an evening free? When am I going to begin to live? And as for holidays, what did I do last Christmas? All the canned tomatoes went bad and exploded. I had to clean up the mess all afternoon. Was that living? More rotten tomatoes are going to explode. All I have to do is to light a match under them. They'll make such a smell that customers won't come into the place for 24 hours. That'll get me an evening free. I'm going to New York too. I'm going to live. I'm going to have enough adventures to last me until I'm partner. Oh yes, I mean it. I'm going to have a good meal, and I'm going to be in danger, and I'm going to get almost arrested, and I'm going to spend all my money. And one more thing. I'm not coming back to Yonkers until I've kissed a girl.
I do believe I shall marry Horace Vandergelder. In fact, I shall certainly marry Horace Vandergelder if he asks me. Oh, say it. Do I love him? Well, of course I don't love him. But I have 2 good reasons for marrying him just the same. In the first place, I'll marry Horace Vandergelder to get away from the millinery business. I've hated it since the first day I've had anything to do with it. I hate hats. And I can no longer stand being suspected of being a wicked woman with nothing to show for it. I can't stand it. All millineresses are suspected of being wicked women. Why, half the time the women come in the shop merely to look at me. They enjoy the suspicion, but they aren't certain. If they were certain I was a wicked woman, why, they wouldn't step foot in this shop again. Do I go to restaurants? No. It would be bad for business. Do I go to balls and theaters or and operas? No. That would be worse for business. The only men I ever meet? Feather merchants. What is that man doing out there on that park bench? Take my word for it. Either I marry Horace Vandergelder, or I bust out of this place like a fire engine. I'll go to every ball and theater and opera in New York City. It comes down to this. What I think Mr. Vandergelder is. Or it comes down to this, and it's very important. What I think Mr. Vandergelder is. I think he'd make a good fighter. Take my word for it. The best part of married life is the fights. The rest is merely so-so. Peter Malloy, God rest him, he was a fine arguing man. I pity the woman whose husband stands up and slams the door and walks out of the house in the beginning of an argument. Peter Malloy, he'd stand up and he'd fight for hours on end. He'd even throw things. And there's no pleasure equal to that. And Mr. Vandergelder, he'd put up a good fight. I know it. And I have a mind to marry him. That man, he looks as if he means to come in here. It's about time a man came into this shop. And I'll get an adventure out of this yet. Why does everyone have adventures except me? Because I have no spirit? No gumption. Oh, I was right. He is coming in here.
Oh my gosh. Mr. Vandergelder walking down the street. I hope he didn't see me.
Good afternoon, sir.
Cornelius Hackle.
Good afternoon. I'm Mrs. Malloy. Perhaps I can help you. Won't you sit down?
Thank you, I will.
So you wish to choose some hats for a friend? No.
You see, Mrs. Malloy, I'm looking for hats. I've looked everywhere. Do you know what I heard? Go to Mrs. Malloy's, they said. So I came here. Only place I could go where I...
Well, now that's very complimentary.
And I was right. Everybody was right.
So you wish to choose some hats for a friend?
Yes, exactly. I was thinking of 5 or 6.
5 or 6?
Yes, Mrs. Malloy, you see, money's no object with me. None at all.
What, Mr. Hackle, that's...
I beg your pardon. Oh, what an interesting street. Something happening every minute. Passers-by and... Mr. Vandergelder is sitting on the bench.
So you're from out of town, Mr. Hackle?
Yes, ma'am.
This friend of yours, couldn't she come in with you one day and choose her hats for herself?
Oh, no. It's a surprise for her.
Indeed. Well, that may be a little difficult, Mr. Hackle. You see, it's not entirely customary. You seem very interested in the street, Mr. Hackle. It's...
Oh, yes. I have a reason to be.
So you're from out of town, Mr. Hackle?
Yes, I'm from Yonkers.
Yonkers?
Yes, Yonkers. You should know Yonkers, Mrs. Malloy. Hudson River, Palisades, Drives. Some say it's the most beautiful town in the world. That's what they say.
Is that so?
Mrs. Malloy, if you had a Sunday free, I'd like to show you Yonkers. You know, it's very historic, too.
Very kind of you. Now, some more about these hats.
Is there maybe Mr. Malloy would like to see Yonkers, too?
Mr. Hackle, I'm a widow.
You are? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Malloy would have enjoyed Yonkers.
It's very likely. Now, this friend of yours, is she dark or light?
Don't think about that for a minute. Any hat you'd like would be perfectly all right with her.
Really? Well, how about this one?
Mrs. Malloy, that's the most beautiful hat I ever saw. What was I saying? You should know Yonkers, Mrs. Malloy.
Well, the truth is, I have a friend from Yonkers. Perhaps you know him. It is always so strange to ask in cases like that, but it's a Mr. Vandergelder.
What was that you said?
So you do know him?
Horace Vandergelder?
Yeah, that's the one.
Know him? Oh, no. I beg your pardon, Mrs. Malloy. What an attractive shop you have. And where does this door lead to?
Mr. Hackle, that's my workroom.
Everything here is so interesting.
So Mr. Vandergelder, he's a very substantial man and very, perhaps your friend might like some of this new Italian straw. Mr. Vandergelder, he's a very substantial man and very well liked, they tell me.
A charming man, Mrs. Malloy.
Yes, he's very charming.
He has only one fault as far as I know. He's as hard as nails. But apart from that, as you say, a charming nature man.
And a large circle of friends?
Yes, indeed. Oh, 5 or 6. He comes and calls on you here from time to time, I suppose?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm expecting a call from him this afternoon.
This afternoon?
Yes, actually, I think I see him crossing the street now. So now more about these hats.
Begging your pardon, Mrs. Malloy.
Mr. Hackle, where are you going? Mr. Hackle!
Why, Irene, my darling child, how are you? Heavenly good to us. Look at you. You look so well.
Well, what a surprise. And Mr. Vandergelder in New York.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Malloy.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder's in New York, and Yonkers lies up there decimated today. Candy.
A pleasure.
We thought we'd play you a short visit, and you'll tell us if it's inconvenient, won't you?
Inconvenient, Dolly, the idea. No, it was incredibly sweet of you to come.
We waited outside a moment.
Mr. Vandergelder thought he saw a customer come in, a man.
Oh, man, Mr. Vandergelder, what will you be saying next? As a matter of fact, I haven't had any customers in today.
Oh, well then we'll sit down for a minute or two.
No customers? Mrs. Malloy, I have some advice to give you about your business.
Oh, advice for Mr. Vandergelder. The whole city should hear this.
In the first place, the aim of business is to make profit.
Oh, is that so?
I've never heard it put so clearly before. Have you heard it?
You pay those girls of yours too much. You pay them as much as men. Girls like that enjoy their work. Wages, Mrs. Malloy, are paid to make people do work they don't want to do.
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder thinks so ably, and that's exactly the way his business is run up in Yonkers.
Mrs. Malloy, I'd like for you to come up to Yonkers.
Well, that would be very nice. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I know someone from Yonkers.
Oh?
Someone else.
Who's that?
Someone quite well-to-do, I believe, although a little free and easy in his behavior. Do you know Mr. Cornelius Hackle of Yonkers?
Oh.
I know him like I know my own boot. He's my head clerk.
Is that so?
He's been in my store for 10 years.
Well, I never.
Where would you have known him?
One of those chance meetings, I suppose.
That was it. It was just one of those chance meetings.
Cornelius Hackle has no right to chance meetings. Where was it?
Mr. Vandergelder, it's very unlike you to question me in such a way.
I think Mr. Hackle is better known than you think he is.
Nonsense.
Oh, well. The truth may as well come out now as later, Mr. Vandergelder. Your head clerk is often in New York. He has an army of friends. Everyone knows Cornelius Hackle.
He never comes to New York. He works all day in my shop and he sleeps at 9 o'clock in my brand room.
Oh, so you think, but it's not true.
Nonsense.
Listen to me. You put your nose so deep in your account books you don't know what's going on. Yes, by day, Cornelius Hackle is your faithful, trusted clerk. But by night, oh, well, he leads a double life. He's here at the opera, at the great restaurants, in all the most fashionable homes. Why, he's at the Harmonia Gardens restaurant 3 nights a week. He is the wittiest, the naughtiest, the gayest, most delightful bon vivant in New York. Well, he's just the famous Cornelius Hackle.
Oh, it ain't the same man. If I ever thought that Cornelius Hackle came to New York, I'd discharge him.
Who took the horses out of the carriage of Jenny Lind and pulled her through the streets?
Who?
Cornelius Hackle. Who dressed up as a waiter at the Fifth Avenue Hotel the other night and took an oyster and dropped it down the front of Mrs. Oh, no, it's too wicked to tell you.
Come on, Dolly, you have to tell it. Who? Was it?
No, but it was Cornelius Hackle.
It ain't the same man. Where'd he get the money?
But he's very rich.
Rich! I keep his money in my safe. He has $146.35.
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, you're killing me. Do come to your senses. He's one of the Hackles.
The Hackles?
They built the Raritan Canal.
Then why would he work in my store?
Well, I'll tell you.
No, I don't want to hear it. I have a headache. I'm going home. It ain't the same man. He sleeps in my brand room. You can't get away from facts. I just made him my chief clerk.
Well, if you'd had any sense, you would have made him partner. Huh. Oh, Irene, I can see you were just as taken with him as everybody else is.
Why, I've only met him once, and very hastily.
But I can see you were taken with him. Oh, no, don't you start thinking about marrying him.
Dolly, what are you saying?
It might be fine, but think it over carefully. He breaks hearts like hickory nuts.
Who?
Cornelius Hackle.
Mrs. Malloy, how many times has he called on you?
I'm telling you the truth. I've only seen him once in my life.
Did you hear that? Is there someone here with you? A man?
Of course not, Mr. Vandergelder.
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, I think your nerves are playing tricks on you. See, there's no one here. Come, let's sit down again, shall we?
I could have sworn that I heard.
God bless you!
Yes, there is someone in there. Well, I'll explain it to you another time. Thank you very much for coming to see me. Good afternoon, Dolly. Good afternoon, Mr. Vandergelder.
You are protecting a man in there.
There's a very simple explanation for this, but for the present, good afternoon.
Come, Mr. Vandergelder. Ernestina Simple is waiting for us.
Mrs. Malloy, I shan't be troubling you again, and vice versa.
Oh, Irene, when I think of all the interesting things you have in this room, make the most of it, dear. Goodbye.
So that was one of your practical jokes, Mr. Hackle?
No, Mrs. Malloy, I realize
You
that
think
what
because
happened...
you're rich, you can make up for all the harm you do, is that it?
No.
So you're the famous Cornelius Hackle who runs around New York tying people up in knots.
No, Mrs. Malloy, I'm just a fella from Yonkers.
You're taking me out to dinner. If indeed you are so rich and gay and charming, you can be rich and gay and charming for me. You dine 3 nights a week at the Harmonia Gardens restaurant, do you? Well, you can take me there now.
Mrs. Malloy, I hear there's an awfully good restaurant at the railway station.
Railway station? The railway station. Certainly not. No, you're taking me out for a good dinner in the heart of the fashionable world. Don't forget that you've made me lose my reputation here. Now, the heart of the fashionable world is the only place we can eat. The cabs are at the corner, so forward march.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Malloy, is it far to the restaurant? Couldn't we walk?
We're not going.
Mrs. Malloy?
Mr. Hackle, I don't go anywhere I'm not wanted. Good night.
But Mrs. Malloy...
I suppose you think I'm not fashionable enough for you, is that it? Well, I won't be a burden to you. Good night, Mr. Hackle.
Mrs. Malloy, I want you to come with me more than anything in the world.
You do?
More than anything.
All right, then. I suppose you better lead the way. See, this is the place I meant. Isn't it fine?
Mrs. Malloy, are you sure you will like it here?
Indeed, I do like it. It's elegant and it's almost private. We're gonna have a fine dinner right in this room. We're gonna forget all our troubles and we're gonna call each other by our first names. Cornelius, call the waiter.
Wait. I can't make a sound. I must have put a cold on that ride. Wait. No, it won't come.
I don't believe you. Besides, Mrs. Levi gave me to understand that every waiter in New York already knew you.
Oh, they will.
So, Cornelius, what will we have to eat?
Let's see. I suppose a loaf of bread and some cheese.
I never heard such nonsense. Cornelius, we've come for a good dinner and a good time. Have you ever had pheasant?
Pheasant?
Yes, I think start with mock turtle soup, pheasant, mashed chestnuts, green salad, and some nice red wine.
All right, and Neapolitan ice cream, hothouse peaches, and champagne.
Champagne?
And a German band.
Cornelius, I won't let you be extravagant. We'll have the champagne, but no band. Cornelius, I'm really enjoying myself. To think that this goes on in hundreds of places every night while I'm sitting home darning stockings.
Cornelius,
dance with me.
Irene! Presbyterian. On second thought, we were hardly what you'd call devout.
What is the meaning of this? I told them I wanted a private room.
Good evening, Mr. Vandergelder. On my way in, the waiter handed me a wallet he thought you might have dropped when you were being jostled by the crowds waiting for tables.
Mrs. Levi, a responsible man has his wallet on him at all times. It's not mine.
Are you sure? Do you want to check?
I'm positive you can give it back to the waiter when he comes by, although in my opinion, any man so careless with his money deserves to lose it.
Of course, Horace. Whatever you say.
Where is Miss Simple?
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, I'll never trust a woman again as long as I live.
What is it?
She ran away this afternoon and got married.
She did?
Married to a young boy of 50.
She did?
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, I'm as disappointed as you are.
I'll be back in just a minute. I need to fix myself up a bit. You are quite the dancer, Mr. Hackle.
Did I just hear?
Oh, I couldn't eat a thing. What have you ordered?
I've ordered what you told me to, a chicken.
Oh, I don't think I could face a chicken. Oh, dear, Mr. Vandergelder, you've had some trying experiences today.
You don't have to tell me.
Mr. Vandergelder, if you're thinking of getting married, you might as well learn that you have to let women be women.
You have managed things very badly. When I plan a thing, it takes place. Where are you going?
I just want to see who's on the other side of the screen.
Good evening, Mrs. Levi.
I think that you dropped that on your way in.
I don't...
Well, who was it?
Oh, some city spark just entertaining his girl, I guess.
Always needing to know everything, always curious about everything, always putting your nose in other people's affairs. Anybody who lived with you would get as nervous as a cat.
What? What are you saying?
I said anyone who lived with you would get
Horace Vandergelder, put such ideas out of your head this very minute. I'm surprised you even mentioned such a thing. Understand that I have no intention of marrying you.
I didn't mean that.
Well, you've been hinting around about it for some time now, but from now on, put such ideas out of your head.
Stop talking like that. I didn't mean anything like that at all.
Well, I hope not. I should hope not. Horace Vandergelder, you go your way and I'll go mine. I'm not some Irene Malloy whose head can be turned by a pot of geraniums. Why, the idea of your even suggesting such a thing.
Mrs. Levi, you misunderstood me.
Well, I certainly hope I did. If I had any intention of marrying again, it would be to a far more pleasure-loving man than you. Why, I'd marry Cornelius Hackle before I'd marry you. However, let's not discuss it anymore. No, Horace. A complaining, quarrelsome, friendless soul like you is no companion for me. You go your way, and I'll go mine.
Stop saying that!
I won't say another word. However, there is one more thing I think I ought to say. It's true. I am a woman who likes to know everything that's going on, who likes to manage things. You're perfectly right about that. But I wouldn't like to manage anything as disorderly as your household, as out of control, as untidy. No, you'll have to do that for yourself, God helping you.
It's not out of control.
Very well. We won't say another word about it. And besides, you said that you were not in control. That may be true. But when I think of the fact that your niece, Ermengarde, told me this morning that you had quarreled with your barber, a man who's held a razor to your throat for the last 20 years? Seems to me that's sinking pretty low.
Well, my clerks, they like...
They like you? Cornelius Hackle and your other assistant Barnaby? Behind your back they call you Wolf Trap.
They don't.
Oh, no. No, Mr. Vandergelder. I think that perhaps I am the last person in the world who likes you, and even I am just so-so. No. For the rest of my life, I am going to have a good time. You'll find some housekeeper who'll prepare 3 meals for $1 a day. It can be done, you know, if you like cold baked beans. You'll spend your last days listening at keyholes for fear someone's cheating you.
Ugh, Dolly, you are one damned exasperating woman.
There, you see? That's the difference between us. I'd be nagging you all day to get some spirit into you. You could be a perfectly charming, witty, amiable man if you wanted to.
I don't want to be charming.
But you are. Look at you. You can't change it.
Listening at keyholes. Dolly, you have no right to say such things to me.
Oh, at your age, you ought to enjoy hearing the honest truth.
My age! Why are you always talking about my age?
I don't know what your age is, but I do know that up in Yonkers with bad food and bad temper, you'll double it in 6 months. Oh, let's talk of something else. But before we leave the subject, there is one more thing I think I ought to say.
Don't!
Sometimes, just sometimes, I think I might be tempted to marry you out of sheer pity. And if the confusion in your house gets any worse, I may have to.
I haven't asked you to marry me.
Well, please don't.
And my house is not in confusion.
What? With your niece Ermengarde upstairs in the restaurant right now? You know, if you allowed her to marry Ambrose, she wouldn't have to run around behind your back to see him.
What? Ermengarde here with that penniless artist? Oh, I'll fix that.
And your clerk skipping around New York behind your back?
He's in Yonkers where he always is.
Nonsense.
What do you mean, nonsense?
Cornelius Hackle's behind this very screen this very minute.
It ain't the same man!
All right, go on. Push it. Knock it down. Go and see.
I don't believe it.
All right. All right. Of course, Horace, if your affairs go from bad to worse and you become actually miserable, I might feel that it was my duty to come up to Yonkers and be of some assistance to you. After all, I was your wife's oldest friend.
I don't know where you got any such notion, but understand once and for all, I have no intention of marrying anyone. Now, I am tired and I don't want to talk.
I won't say another word either.
Irene, I feel a lot better about everything. I feel so well that I'm going to tell the truth.
I'd forgotten that men get drunk so much differently from women. All right, what is the truth?
If I tell you the truth, will you let me put my arm around your waist?
All right, you can put your arm around my waist, just if it can be done in a gentlemanly type way. Although, I might as well warn you, corset to corset.
You're a wonderful woman, Mrs. Malloy.
Thank you. All right, now that's enough. Tell me, what is the truth?
Irene, I'm not rich as Mrs. Levi said I was.
Not rich?
No, and I almost never came to New York. And I'm not like she said I was, bad. And I think you ought to know that at this very minute, Mr. Vandergelder is sitting on the opposite side of that screen.
What? So that's why we've been whispering. Cornelius, let's just forget it all about Mr. Vandergelder and order some more wine.
Irene, I think we better go. You take this money and pay the bill. Don't worry, it's not mine.
I have a headache. I'm going back to my hotel. Now, here's the money to pay for the dinner. Here's the money to pay for the... Here's the money for... I've lost my purse! What did you do with the purse the waiter gave you?
I gave it away! You were very persuasive in your argument that any man so careless as to misplace his purse should see it lost forever. And you positively convinced me that it couldn't have been your purse. Are you sure it was?
Who did you give it to? What am I gonna do? They don't know me at the hotel. I'm new there. They don't know me here. Cancel the chicken. I can't pay for it.
Oh, Horace, I'll be able to find some money. Sit down and calm yourself.
Dolly Ghallagher, I gave you $25 this morning.
I gave it to my lawyer. I haven't a cent. Ambrose Kemper. We can borrow it from him.
I wouldn't take it from him.
Oh, Cornelius Hackle will lend it to us.
He's in Yonkers, waiter!
Cornelius, is this Mr. Vandergelder's purse?
I didn't know it myself. I thought it was money just wandering around loose that didn't belong to anybody.
Goodness, that's what politicians think.
Waiter!
Down in front of Katie.
Horace, you danced with me at your wedding. You danced with me at mine. Do you remember?
No! Yes!
Oh, Horace, good dancer then. Don't confess to me that you're too old to dance.
Not too old! I just don't want to dance!
Oh, Horace, listen to that music. Do you remember those dances up in Yonkers at the firehouse? You gave me a fan.
You're discharged! Not a word! You're fired! And you're discharged!
No, you're discharged.
Well, Mr. Vandergelder, there's your life. Without a clerk, without a bride, without your purse. Will you marry me now?
No! I wouldn't marry you, Dolly Levi, if you were the last woman on earth. Not even if you asked me 1,000,000 times. I didn't need you before, and I don't need you now. You go your way, and I'll go mine. Dolly! Dolly! Dolly!
You stamped, Mr. Vandergelder?
What? Oh, so it's you, Mr. Hackle, come crawling back, have you?
No, Mr. Vandergelder. I just stopped by for my $146.35. You see, I've decided to go into business for myself. And since the only business I know is hay and feed, I'm opening up my own store.
And Mrs. Levi found a perfect location, Mr. Vandergelder. Right across the street from you.
So, you think you can compete with Vandergelders? Well, just you try. You'll be closed in a week. I'll go to the courts. I'll get lawyers. I'll...
Why, Mr. Vandergelder, as I live and breathe. Aren't you handsome in that outfit? You know, so few men have the courage to wear a fuchsia bow tie.
Dolly Ghallagher.
Oh, Horace, I know what you're going to say. You're upset about the Ernestina debacle, but I have found another girl, the ideal wife. Oh, but don't let me interrupt you. You were doing something. What were you doing?
Just getting Cornelius's money, Dolly. $146.
And 35 cents.
All right. All right. If it's the money you want, it's in the safe upstairs.
Money, 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 money. Oh, it's like the sun we walk under. It can kill or cure Mr. Vandergelder's money. He's never tired of saying that most of the people in this world are fools. And he's right. Himself, Cornelius, Irene, myself, yes. We're all fools, and we're in great danger of destroying the world in our folly. But the surest way to keep us from harm is to give us the 4 or 5 human pleasures that are our right in the world. And that takes a little money. The difference between a little money and no money is enormous, and it can shatter the world. And the difference between a little money and an enormous amount of money is slight, and it too can shatter the world. It's all in how you use it. As my late husband, Ephraim Levi, used to say, money, pardon the expression, is like manure. It's not worth a thing unless you spread it around, encouraging things to grow. At least that's the opinion of the second Mrs. Vandergelder. I'm ready for my sign, Ephraim. Oh, Horace, as I was saying, I found another ideal wife for you.
Dolly Ghallagher, I don't want you to find me no ideal wife. If I want an ideal wife, I will find her for myself. And I have. And it's you, damn it!
Why, Horace!
I know I was a fool with Mrs. Malloy and that other woman, but Dolly, forgive me. And marry me?
Horace, stop right there.
What do you mean?
You know as well as I do that you are the first citizen of Yonkers, and your wife would have to be a somebody. Answer me. Am I a somebody?
You are. Wonderful woman!
Ah, you're partial. No, Horace, it's not enough to load your wife with money and jewels and insist that she be benefactress to half the town. Oh, by the way, it's bad business to let Cornelius open a store right across the street from you. Better to take him back and let him be partner.
Partner?
And Barnaby can have Cornelius's old job.
Oh, now you've gone too far, Dolly. You see here.
That way we can all be together and we can dance at Ermengarde's wedding.
That's it. That's it. I will dance at no weddings. Besides, I don't know how. And it would take me weeks, months, years to learn. All right, I'll dance.
Oh, Horace, I never thought I'd hear you say such a thing. Horace, what's that smell up there?
Oh.
Horace Vandergelder, what's going on up there?
Oh, nothing. I just thought I'd have the front room painted over in blue.
Oh, Horace.
You know, I know that the old paint ain't worn out yet, but there's a young fella who's just set up business in town, and he needs all the help he can get.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said, Dolly, that money, pardon the expression, is like manure. It's not worth a thing unless you...
Thank you, Ephraim. And in that one day, I managed to be matchmaker for 3 couples, a feat even for me. It's all a matter of arranging things like luncheons and poker games and love.
Down in front.